Clara, get the guest rooms ready. We're coming for 3 weeks. Your back pain is just drama. Click.
Don't just stand there, Clara. Mom said you'd cook seafood. And Dad needs the master suite. Now.
Always making excuses! Get over yourself, you pathetic loser! We are staying here as long as we want.
Clara doesn't rent this house, ma'am. She owns it outright. And she is also the owner of your mortgage company.
Pack your things and get out. This is my son's house, and you are nothing but a lazy, selfish freeloaders. My mother's voice shrieked through the vaulted living room, echoing off the hardwood floors as she swept a porcelain vase off the side table. It shattered into 100 pieces near my feet. Around us, the entire family stood in stunned silence. My brother Marcus was smirking, leaning back on my velvet sofa with his muddy shoes up on the coffee table. My father was casually sipping my expensive scotch, looking at me with cold, utter disdain. Outside, the neighborhood was watching through the wide seaside windows as my mother literally tossed my framed master's degree onto the front lawn. I stood there, clutching my lower back, breathing through the searing pain, and said nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. My mother stepped right into my face, her breath smelling of cheap wine. You think just because you live here you call the shots? You're a disgrace, Clara. We are staying as long as we want, and you'll sleep on the floor if we tell you to. Marcus chuckled. Face it, sis, you're done. I looked at my mother, then at my father, and finally at Marcus. I slowly took a deep breath, straightened my posture as much as my spinal stitches would allow, and looked at my watch. 10:14 a.m. I looked my mother dead in the eye and softly said, "You really shouldn't have done that." She laughed in my face. But that's not where this story began. 3 weeks earlier, I had undergone a massive microdiscectomy back operation. My spine was held together by fresh surgical thread and sheer willpower. My doctor's instructions were absolute: strict bed rest, no lifting, zero stress, and total quiet. I had bought this gorgeous, multi-million-dollar seaside cottage 2 years ago. I worked 80 hours a week as a senior corporate auditor, saving every penny, sacrificing vacations, and building my life from scratch. My family, however, saw me as the eternal underdog. To them, I was just Clara, the quiet daughter who lived simply, drove a sensible sedan, and never bragged. They assumed I rented a small beach shack. Meanwhile, my golden child brother Marcus was the golden boy who could do no wrong, despite being a 30-year-old chronic gambler who lost every job he ever had. On Friday night, while I was resting with an ice pack strapped to my spine, my father called. "No, how are you feeling? No, how is your recovery?" "Clara," my father's boombox of a voice echoed through the speaker. "We've decided we're coming down to your place tomorrow morning for a 3-week seaside getaway. Marcus, his new girlfriend, your mother, and I. Get the guest rooms ready." My heart sank into my stomach. "Dad, I can't," I begged, keeping my voice soft despite the panic. "I literally just had back surgery. I can barely walk to the kitchen. I need total quiet and rest. Please, postpone this." My mother grabbed the phone from him. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, Clara. It's just a little back pain. You're always making excuses. We're coming, and that's final." Mom insisted nothing would change. "Mom, please." Click. They hung up. I laid in the dark, holding my phone, feeling the familiar, heavy ache of a lifetime of being trampled. They had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. They thought I was still the pushover little girl they could manipulate. That was their first mistake. The next morning at 9 a.m., a massive, shiny SUV pulled up my long cobblestone driveway. I stood near the grand archway of my porch, leaning heavily on a cane, wearing a soft robe over my back brace. My father got out first, wearing a Hawaiian shirt, followed by my mother, Marcus, and a woman I'd never seen before. They hauled out 6 massive hard-shell suitcases from the trunk. "Look at this place," Marcus scoffed, looking at the expansive ocean view and the multi-level modern architecture. "Must be nice wasting money renting a place like this when your own brother is struggling." "Clara," my mother barked, marching up the steps. "Grab these 2 bags and take them upstairs to the master suite. Marcus needs the king bed because his neck has been sore." I stared at her, my face completely expressionless. "I told you I had spinal surgery 6 days ago, Mom. I can't lift heavy things." "Don't start with the attitude," my father snapped, brushing past me into the foyer, leaving muddy prints on the white marble. "You're our daughter. You serve your family. Stop being so selfish." They pushed right past me, commandeering the living room, throwing their dirty luggage onto my custom furniture, and shouting demands for coffee and towels. Marcus sauntered over, popping open my glass display cabinet. "Hey sis, where's the good stuff? Mom said you'd cook us a big seafood lunch." "I am in severe physical pain," I said calmly, resting both hands on my cane. "I am asking you, as my family, to leave and let me recover." My mother scoffed, grabbing the porcelain vase from the entryway and slamming it onto the table to make space for her purse. "We aren't going anywhere. You don't dictate terms to us." And that's when the chaos peaked. That was when my mother lost her temper, smashed my vase, threw my degree onto the lawn, and declared that I was a freeloading nobody in what she assumed was a rented house. They thought they had trapped me. They thought I was weak. Nobody in that room knew the truth. What my family didn't know, what nobody in my family had ever bothered to ask, was how I bought this home. They thought I was a mid-level accountant making $60,000 a year. They didn't know I was the head of forensic auditing for the state's largest real estate development firm. And more importantly, they didn't know who actually owned the deed to this property, or who was coming over that morning. Remember that detail. It matters. When my mother shrieked in my face at 10:14 a.m., telling me I was nothing, I didn't lose my cool. I simply stepped back, took out my phone, and tapped a single button on my screen. "Who are you calling? The cops?" Marcus laughed loudly. "Go ahead. Tell them your poor family is visiting." Just then, the heavy iron gates at the bottom of my driveway began to swing open with a low, hydraulic hum. A sleek, black Mercedes Maybach pulled up the driveway, followed immediately by a marked county sheriff's vehicle. My father froze, his scotch glass stopping halfway to his mouth. My mother's triumphant grin flickered. "Who the hell is that?" my father muttered, adjusting his collar. The rear door of the Maybach opened. Out stepped a tall, distinguished man in a bespoke three-piece suit, carrying a thick leather briefcase. Beside him, two uniformed sheriff's deputies stepped out of their cruiser. The man in the suit walked briskly up the steps, his eyes sweeping over the scattered porcelain on the floor, the dirt on the marble, and my mother holding her breath. He walked straight past my father, straight past my mother, stopped right in front of me, and bowed his head slightly. "Good morning, Miss Clara," he said, his voice ringing crisp and clear through the room. "I brought the signed deed, the private security detail, and the legal injunction as you requested." My mother stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "Who are you? This is a private family matter." "Get out of my daughter's rental." The man turned slowly. He looked at my mother with absolute, icy professional contempt. "Rental?" the man echoed, a faint, cold smile playing on his lips. "Madam, my name is Arthur Pendleton, senior partner at Pendleton and Associates. I am Miss Clara's estate attorney, and this isn't a rental." The room went dead silent. You could hear the faint crashing of the ocean waves outside. "Clara doesn't just own this property outright. Unmortgaged," Arthur continued, opening his briefcase and pulling out a thick sheaf of legal documents. "She is also the primary majority shareholder of Veritas Development Group, the very firm that holds the mortgage on your home, Mr. and Mrs. Vance." My father's face drained of every ounce of color. He dropped his scotch glass. It shattered on the floor, but nobody moved. What? My father stammered, his voice suddenly weak, small, and pathetic. 3 months ago, I said, my voice smooth, calm, and completely devoid of emotion, Dad asked me to look into why his mortgage company was threatening foreclosure. I didn't just look into it. I bought the holding company. My mother gasped, clutching her chest. She looked like she had just been slapped across the face. "You see," I continued, leaning slightly on my cane, "I knew you'd pull something like this eventually. You've treated me like a doormat my entire life. You exploited my kindness, ignored my health, and humiliated me in my own home. But you forgot one thing." I stepped forward, looking my brother Marcus right in the eyes. His confident smirk was completely gone. He was trembling. "I audit people for a living." "Clara, sweetie," my mother started, her voice suddenly high-pitched and frantic, taking a step toward me with hands raised in surrender. "We were just joking. You know how Marcus gets. We were just excited to see you." "Arthur," I interrupted, never breaking eye contact with my mother. "Execute the order." "With pleasure, Miss Clara," Arthur replied. He handed a document to the lead sheriff deputy. The deputy stepped forward, pulling out 2 sets of handcuffs. "Marcus Vance?" the deputy asked. Marcus took a step back, turning pale. "Wait, what? What did I do?" "Mr. Vance, You are under arrest for grand larceny and corporate fraud, Arthur stated flatly. Our internal audit revealed yesterday that you systematically embezzled $140,000 from the local firm where you worked as a manager, a firm owned by Miss Clara's parent company. She signed the warrant this morning. No, Dad, help me, Marcus screamed as the deputy grabbed his arms and slammed him against the glass wall, clicking the cuffs into place. My mother began to wail, a horrific, desperate sound. Clara, stop this. He's your brother. You're destroying this family. You destroyed this family when you decided my pain didn't matter, I said, my voice deadpan. Arthur turned to my father. And as for you, Mr. Vance, because you defaulted on your loan obligations and committed fraud on your financial disclosure forms, foreclosure proceedings on your primary residence have officially commenced as of 8 a.m. today. You have 72 hours to vacate. My father fell to his knees right there on my marble floor. The proud, arrogant patriarch was crushed into a weeping mess in seconds. Deputies, I said quietly, please escort these trespassers off my property. They are damaging my home. The deputies didn't hesitate. My mother fought, screamed, and begged, her expensive seaside getaway ending in absolute public ruin as the neighbors lined the street, recording every second of her being marched down my cobblestone driveway in shame. 6 months later, the dust finally settled. Marcus pled guilty to grand larceny to avoid a maximum sentence and is currently serving 3 years in state prison. My parents lost their suburban house to foreclosure and were forced to downsize to a tiny 2-bedroom apartment on the far side of town. They no longer call me. They can't. I changed my number and placed a permanent restraining order against them. As for me, my back healed completely. Yesterday morning, I sat on my sunlit patio, sipping hot tea, listening to the gentle crash of the waves. For the first time in my life, I felt completely at peace. I realized that setting boundaries isn't just about saying no. Sometimes it's about showing people exactly who you become when they force you to protect yourself. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who had no idea who they were dealing with? Tell me your story in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more revenge stories every week.